You're listening to Keith Engle, the host of TGI Sports Talk on the National Streaming Sports Roku channel.
Football season is here, and SeatGeek is my go-to for buying tickets. Now with SeatGeek, every single ticket is backed with their buyer guarantee. We've all had plans change, and when you can't make it to the big game, SeatGeek has you covered. They're the only ticketer that allows you to return your tickets ahead of the event for credit with SeatGeek swaps. So when things come up, I know that my tickets won't go to waste. So what are you waiting for? Download the SeatGeek app to maximize your possibilities and shop live events with confidence.
Good afternoon, everybody. Keith Engle here for TGI Sports Talk's MLB update. Great to have you with us today. We'll talk about what we can in the world of Major League Baseball. We'll look at some of the news that's out there. We've had some signings, some extensions, some trades, some more, we'll look more at the grades of everybody. We'll look at, I saw an article about the worst moves everybody's made, every team's made since 2020. I'll give you my Hall of Fame ballot since that's coming up on 121. And whatever else you want to talk about in the world of Major League Baseball today. I want to welcome everybody watching on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. We're live on the National Streaming Sports Roku channel. Make sure you get those channels downloaded. Lots of great content there. Where else are we? The groups that allow us to share our shows, John Gonzalez and the Sports Authorities among them, Greg Rawlings at America's Pastime, The Love of Baseball, Flo and the Gang at Bottom Line Sports, great podcast that they do. And that's broadcast live on Let's Talk Sports, who's a good friend of this show and allows us to share our content on their Facebook page as well. Ken Krause at Golf Bud, Sports of All Sorts. Just been made an expert there. You know me, I'm an expert on everything. If I make it up or not. I think we still have some music playing. Sorry about that. Quick shout out to Ralph Williams at RW Media. Ralph does some great stuff there out of Pittsburgh, specifically the Sports Corner every Tuesday from 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern with Smoking Jim Frazier. Been a guest there many times and enjoy myself immensely. DDH thumbs up. Thank you to SeatGeeks for being a sponsor on this show and all the shows on National Streaming Sports. Please download their app. And if I put the thing up here, there you go. Put that up for a little bit. Download that app. So when you want to get seats, whether it's sports, entertainment, whatever it is, you've got it. So what's going on in the world of baseball today? Who's with us so far? Could be a quiet afternoon. My thanks to good afternoon, AC. How are you today? Good to have you. Good afternoon to you, Drew, as well. Mr. Ehrlich, if you will. Happy belated birthday to Drew. His birthday was earlier this week. 39 for the however many times. So add that up for you. I can't anyway, because I can't add. Anyway. What are we going to talk about today? Anything you guys want? I don't know. It's funny. I get to this part of the season, and I'm like, we'll skip this afternoon. Then I look, and I see, there's some news to talk about. We got the Hall of Fame vote coming up, as I said, here in a couple of weeks. That certainly is worth taking a look at again. We know the veterans have already voted in Dick Allen and who? Good grief. Why am I'm having a brain fade. Who did they vote in? It'll come to me, or Drew will tell me. Have to give a shout out to Team USA junior men's hockey team, back-to-back world championships. It was absolutely beautiful to watch them arm in arm singing the national anthem together after the win. USA. Don't forget the A, AC. USA. I agree. Certainly not a hockey show, but we'll be talking more hockey on the Sunday Stream of Conscious coming up. We'll get Jim Beringer in from time to time. Yes, rest in peace to Brian. I know I'm going to say, how How would you say his name, Drew? Matt, I haven't looked up his name to get the correct pronunciation. Matt, who is it? It's probably. Why do I make everything harder than it has to be? We do send out our condolences to his family. He died at 37 years old. Former first round pick. Pitched a few years in Baltimore, making 68 starts. Did play for the Cubs a little bit. He was found in a deceased status, and his cause of death has still not been released. Died Wednesday. It's always sad. It's sad when anybody dies. 37-year-old athletes are not supposed to pass away that soon. I will say, from what I know, one of his great claims of fame was a success against Big Papi, who, if I remember an article I read a little while back, only hit about $139 or something against some $140. Sad stuff for sure. Orioles add to their pen with Kittredge. We got a couple moves we'll take a look at. Dave Parker, thank you, Drew. Oh, that was slipping my mind. We're going to look at the ballot. It's funny. A lot of first timers left off the ballot too, which I thought everybody went on. And I guess the Hall of Fame committee makes a call on whether you deserve it or not. And a shout out to Notre Dame, yes, which we'll get into more Saturday. And a quick shout out to Tony Collins, my guest this morning on 101 with Keith Engle. We had a great conversation today. Great book, by the way, Broken Road. How I turned my mess into a message. And Tony's got a very inspirational story to tell. Matus. Okay. Thank you. Red Sox disappointed this offseason. Boston Paul. You know, it's funny. I don't know who was on a couple weeks ago. Maybe it was Scott. Maybe they were being facetious. I don't know. They were talking about the wonderful offseason that Boston's had. A couple of stories. Vlad Guerrero avoids a salary arbitration with the Blue Jays. He agreed to a 1-year, $28.5 million contract. Framber Valdez agrees to a 1-year, $18 million contract with the Astros. Skubal, the reigning Cy Young Award winner for Detroit, received $10 million from the Tigers 2 years before he's eligible for free agency. More than 3 times what he earned last year. Any other news? Let's see. Arbitration eligible people, 3-time batting champion. We always have fun with this name, Luis Arias. Rumored to be coming to the Yankees, by the way. The Yankees are possibly looking to shed salary to bring in either Arias, I'm going to say his name differently every time, Drew, or Polanco to maybe fill that second base or third base hole that they have still. But he agreed to $14 million salary. Dylan Cease agreed to $13.75 with the Padres. The Diamondbacks agreed to deals with Zach Gallen and Josh Naylor for $13 and $10 million apiece. The Mariners reached $11.3 million deal with Randy Arozarena, who hit a sterling 219 with 20 home runs and 60 RBIs. All more evidence. You don't need to be any good to make money in Major League Baseball or sports in general. Yankees and their new all-star reliever, Devin Williams, he was acquired by a trade. Recently was agreed to an $8.6 million contract. That's a steal, by the way, compared to some of these other deals we've talked about. Defending world champion Dodgers wrapped up a couple of players in Kopech and Gatterall for $5 and $2, almost $3 million apiece. The White Sox and first baseman Andrew Vaughn signed for $5.85 million. Not a great year out of him last year either. And then the Phillies, Ranger Suarez, 8.8. Brady Singer traded to the Reds this offseason by the Royals, 8.7. There's a great viral video, by the way, of Brady Singer when he first signed with the Royals. giving his parents a great gift. If you haven't seen this, Google it. It's really, it brings a tear to your eye. Cedric Mullins and the Orioles, $8.7 million. There's still 17 players who have failed to reach agreement before numbers were exchanged on Thursday, most notably Kyle Tucker, who's a new Cub. Anybody else? Nathaniel Lowe. Here's the name. Here's the guys all headed to arbitration. Mateo Jaron Duran, Mickey Maniac, Jose Quilopedia. Not a lot of big names here. Luis, I'm gonna look at the big names. Mark Leiter Jr. Is a big name, I guess, for the Yankee fans out there. Kyle Tucker, I mentioned. William Contreras with the Brewers. Brendan Donovan, Newt Barr with St. Louis. You guys for St. Louis. Michael King with San Diego. Nathaniel Lowe with Washington. Billy, this will come up. I got Billy Wagner. So this is Billy Wagner's last year. If I'm not mistaken, Drew, you can correct me. I think it's his last year on the ballot. I'm going to go through the ballot in a minute. I've started to come around on Wagner. I've only got 6 guys on my ballot without Wagner. And we'll talk about that in just a second for sure. 17 players exchanged arbitration figures, which we just went through. Yanks deserve an A for offseason moves. I want to say yes. I'm going to give him an A minus for now, maybe even a B plus, because Goldschmidt and Bellinger are a bit of a risk. Not a ton of money. They haven't filled that second base hole yet. Left field still needs to be addressed, so Dominguez is probably going to get a shot. Defensively, he's certainly challenged. But they've done a good job in the bullpen. A great job with Delvin Williams, great job with Max Fried. I think the Goldschmidt and Bellinger moves will work out, but you could give him an A. I'd give an A minus, somewhere between a B plus and an A, which is an A minus, I guess. Boston is doing okay. Maybe it was you, AC, that said this. I don't know. Boston's doing okay if they are on 3 or 4 year plan, except ownership is telling Sox fans that we are on a 3-year plan since the Mookie trade. Well, that's like 5 years ago. Time for ownership to sell the Sox. I don't disagree. I don't see a move that even helps them 3 or 4 years down the road. Unless you're looking to load up on injury opportunities. JB, how are you, buddy? Good to have you with us. Check out JB's Back It Up Binge podcast on YouTube. William Contreras. Yes. Yep. Hello, Linda. How are you? Mac doing a sports memories on El Tiante. Louis Tiant did not make the Hall of Fame this year, as we talked about recently. I would put Louis in the Hall of Fame. We've had Louis on the one-on-one show, and it was a great interview. It was very sad when Louis passed away here a couple of months ago. I talked to his son Dan a lot leading up to Louis' appearance on the show. Luis Tiant was a tremendous big game pitcher. Had really 2 careers. Was a standout when he came up pitching with Cleveland and Minnesota. Had arm injuries and had a second career with the Red Sox. And a lot of people who put a lot of stock in wins and peripheral numbers might disagree. I think Louis Tiant's a Hall of Famer myself. Yankees did a great job. Again, I'm not going to say great yet because I have to see how it plays out. I will say the Yankees are A minus, which is okay. It's good. It's not great. Bellinger and Goldschmidt work out. If Goldschmidt has a rebirth, which is entirely possible, especially playing in a hitter's ballpark now, both of them, I'll feel differently. just getting Aaron Judge out of center field is worth getting Cody Bell. And for the price you're paying these guys, there's not a lot of risk here except for risking, not winning a World Series again. But it's worth a shot. After Christian Walker came off the market, I think the Yankees, I didn't want anything to do with Alonso. I think Goldschmidt and he's an upgrade over Rizzo. Sorry. I love Anthony Rizzo. Can't hit anymore. And as bad as Goldschmidt was last year, he was much better than Anthony Rizzo. So yeah, again, getting Judge out of center field is a huge, huge move for the Yankees this year. I've said this many, many times before. Judge is a tremendous right fielder. He's an average at best center fielder. Plus, playing center field every day wears down a guy who's 6'8" more than right field. If you don't agree with that, you've never played the game. Devin Williams and Fried, when healthy, are the best New York, without a doubt. Listen, Devin Williams throws a pitch that is devastating. He's got a changeup that and again, I don't know all the details to it, but it's unlike anything anybody else throws. Plus, he throws some nasty fastball as well. But he gets by mostly on his changeup. We'll see if he can. Again, I'm not comparing him with Mo Rivera. I would never compare anybody. I would embarrass them by comparing them to Mariano Rivera. But Mariano Rivera threw one pitch, basically, guys. One pitch. And he's a unanimous Hall of Famer. They both are great complementary pairs, Goldie and Bellinger. Agreed. What's that? What's Williams? Williams. Listen, I'm not saying it's not a good off season. I'm not into saying great until I see some results. Right? Do I think that? And again, we still got a hole at second base. Fill the hole at second base, and I'll give you great. Right now, DJ is going to have to play third base, and hope he, for the third year in a row, hope that he's going to have a resurgence. I love DJ. I don't see it happening. So again, until the Yankees fill that hole, I'm not giving them great. They've done a really good job. I don't know why that's not good enough, Paul. Why is a Red Sox guy giving me a hard time about my Yankees score? Verlander signs a 1-year deal, for $15 million, Drew, I think. And listen, if I'm going to take I love Verlander. I love Scherzer. Scherzer's probably going to sign a similar type deal somewhere. Scherzer might be a better bet to help a team than Verlander right now. The Giants, I'm not sure. The Giants, Willie Adames signs with the Giants, and I'm not sure why. I don't think that team's going to be that good. They disappointed me last year. I think they're worse than they were before, even with Adames coming in there. Should have signed with the Yankees. That's cool. Again, listen, the Hall of Fame is a very subjective thing, right? There's a lot of guys in there I can tell you don't belong. In my mind. In other people's mind, they belong. JB, I don't know how old you are. If you watch Louis Tiant pitch from about 1972 to 78-ish, he was one of the best pitchers in baseball. If you watch a 1975 World Series, you saw a guy who gutted out a couple of great performances and one so-so one in the World Series and in the playoffs leading up to that. Again, baseball's not just about numbers. I mean, other than the numbers, you tell me where Louis Tiant falls short. He recovered from a big-time injury at a time where pitchers didn't necessarily recover from those injuries because we didn't have the medical resources that they have today. To me, a lot of, and again, this is how everybody can judge however they want. You want to use numbers and use whatever. I don't know what your criteria is, JB. I'm just talking in general. I use the eye test. the guys I've watched play. It's harder for me. I don't judge any of the old timers whether they belong or they don't. If I didn't see them play, I don't make judgments. I don't make judgments just based on the numbers. I guess certain things, I guess numbers would weigh in a little bit, but that isn't a big thing for me. The eye test means a lot. I saw a lot of Louis Tiant as a teenager. And it's too bad he was past his prime when he got to the Yankees. Texas loses Yates and Robertson and signed Chris Martin. 30. Yeah. They want to get older and older. Didn't the Mets sign somebody for their bullpen, Drew, by the way? Let's get into, let me look at who these recent signees are. Verlander goes to the Giants. We talked about Reds acquired Gavin Lux in a trade with the Dodgers. Interesting move. If Lux has a little resurgency, that could be a boost for the Reds. The Royals re-signed Michael Lorenzen, also a very good hitter, which we touched on a little bit the other day. The Dodgers reached an agreement with a Korean infielder, Kim, on a 3-year, $12 million deal. Nats signed Bell, which we'd already talked about. That's it. I thought there was another move that I thought who'd the Mets bring in for the back of their bullpen? To help the back of their bullpen. Who the heck was it? I'm not seeing it. I don't know why. Goldie and Bellinger, I was going to stay away from in fantasy. Again, here's the thing, Paul. We can talk about fantasy or we can talk about real baseball. You can't talk about both of them at the same time because one has zero to do with the other. Fantasy is all about numbers, as we know, and that's it. Real baseball, again, there are a lot of intangibles that make a player better in real life than he is in fantasy baseball, which is why I struggle sometimes in fantasy baseball because, I think I read too much into guys, and I want to have guys that I think contribute in real baseball. And fantasy baseball isn't real baseball. I don't care how much you try to make it like real baseball. It isn't. Right? And I don't compare, I will never say this guy sucks because he killed my fantasy team or whatever. Again, or he could help your fantasy team and kill your real team. Look at guys like Gleyber Torres who have, if he's the best example, but he's an example for me. Alonso certainly help you in a couple, 3 categories, but then he kills you in real baseball. To me, I'm not a big Alonso fan, as we know. I just dropped the Yankee episode. The person who joined me and said B+ for the offseason so far, close to you. Yeah. Again, I'm not knocking the Yankees' moves. I just want to see how they work out and I don't see anything wrong with that. Right? I'm okay with them being better than I grade them. If they're worse than I grade them, well, then we're going to have a problem. So I'm okay. Again, I'm not saying we had a bad offseason. Not like some of these teams haven't made a move at all. What are these guys waiting for? What is there, 7 teams? 7 teams that haven't signed a free agent, I believe, or maybe made a trade of any consequence. I know you meant, Paul. Williams is going to be a great addition to that back of that bullpen. Listen, 2 things are huge here. Clay Holmes is gone and Devin Williams is the closer. We get to use some of those guys who have closed in different roles, and I think they'll be better in those roles. And we get Aaron Judge out of center field. Huge move. White Sox signed Bobby Dalbec and Martin Perez. Resurgence. Yes, they will not lose 121 games this year. I agree 100%. There's 3. There's 3 that haven't picked up anybody. So there you go. And I think there's 7, if I'm not wrong, that have not signed a free agent. Strange offseason. Now it's not the best free agent class to begin with. There's still some big names out there, and Bregman and Santander, and whomever else. I guess there's a couple of Alonso. And by the way, guys, it's going to be the 11th tomorrow. Pitchers and catchers in about 4 weeks, 5 weeks at most. 58. Saw him play many times. 58. Oh, you're 58. Saw him play many times. Took 19 years to accumulate those numbers. Again, you're looking at only the numbers, though. Look at the years he missed to injury, or he was not effective because of injury. Let me look at Louis Tiant's numbers. I like these discussions. I really do. And by the way, if you just want to talk about compilers, there's a gazillion of them, JB. Right? Let me look at his numbers. So he went from 69 to 71, winning just 17 games because of injury. So you can throw those years out, basically. He won 20 games 1, 2, 3, 4 times. He was an all-star 4 times. He was in the top 10 in MVP voting 3 times. He was in the top 5 in Cy Young Award voting 3 times. He pitched some great big game in 75, some really big games in 75. Listen, I'll give you your argument, right? And again, you say he accumulated those years in it took him 19 years to accumulate those numbers. I said I was throwing the numbers out. I was using the eye test, right? But he did win. Where is he? 229 games, 3.3 ERA. I'm going to throw out those last 3 years and those 3 years in the middle, man. It took him 12 years or 13 years, because I can't do math, really, to accumulate those numbers. Because he sucked the last 2 years, really the last 3 years. And again, you can say every year matters in the Hall of Fame. To me, I want to look at somebody's best 10 years. And again, it's a subjective thing. You're certainly entitled to that opinion. Because you'll hate to hear that I think Brooks Robinson was overrated. With the bat. Great fielder. Great leader. I think Nettles was better. Greg Nettles belongs in the Hall of Fame. I'm going to say that 100 times. Tons of free agent relievers left out there. We'll see. We're going to see, as you said, Drew. Once one signs, a bunch will sign. I must have dreamed it, or I heard a rumor of somebody signing for the Mets. Obviously, that hasn't happened. Let's look at the Hall of Fame right now. We'll talk more about these guys. The Tiant conversation won't come up again for another year. And I might be a little biased because I've talked to Dan Tiant a lot about his father's legacy and whether he belongs. I've talked a lot to Veda Pinson Jr. about Veda Pinson's Hall of Fame candidacy. Listen, Veda Pinson was one of the best players in the game for 10 years. He had a precipitous fall at the end of his career. He played in the shadow of Frank Robinson in Cincinnati. He's another guy in my mind. Look at him. I'm going to tell you 100 times. If Harold Baines and Fred McGriff and guys like this belong in the Hall of Fame, Scott Rowland, then Veda Pinson, Louis Tiant, Greg Nettles all belong in the Hall of Fame. All of them. I've been through this argument a bunch of times. So hard to believe Yuri Gurriel, Tim Anderson, J.D. Davis, and Joey Gallo haven't signed with anyone. I think Gurriel might be the biggest surprise there of all. Everybody needs a guy to strike out 250 times, so get Gallo in there to cool things off. Here's the nominees, guys. Here are the people that are eligible to be voted on in the Hall of Fame voting, and that voting will be released on the 20th of this month, or 21st of this month. What great week that's going to be. I'm just going to throw this out there, just dropping it, and knowing I'll be chastised by at least half my audience. We have a wonderful day that on the 20th. And then we have another great day on the 21st, the release of the Hall of Fame voting. Billy Wagner in his 10th year. Can I sort this by this? Yeah, right here. So Billy Wagner in his 10th year, which I think, again, Drew, if I'm not wrong, is his last year of eligibility to be voted on by the writers. It's not telling me here, but I'm surprised. Andrew Jones in his 8th year. I'm sorry, Manny Ramirez in his 9th year. Andrew Jones in his 8th year. Omar Vizquel in his 8th year. Andy Pettitte, 7th year. Abreu in his 6th year. Burley in his 5th year. Torrey Hunter, Alex Rodriguez, 4th year. Jimmy Rollins, 4th year. Beltran and Rodriguez in their 3rd year. Utley and Wright in their 2nd year. And first year guys this year on the ballot: Carlos Gonzalez, Curtis Granderson, Felix Hernandez, Adam Jones, Ian Kinsler, Russell Martin, Brian McCann, Dustin Pedroia, Hanley Ramirez, Fernando Rodney, CeCe Sabathia, Ichiro, Troy Tulowitzki, Ben Zabrowski. Here's my ballot. No brainer. Ichiro in. Because of my stance on steroids and everybody used and or not knowing who used and who didn't, A-Rod's getting a vote. He won't get in, by the way. Manny Ramirez, Beltran. Forget your conspiracy nonsensical theories that he shouldn't be in because he was banging a freaking garbage can. CeCe Sabathia, Andrew Jones. There's 3 guys that I'm wavering on. Billy Wagner. I think I'm going to vote for Billy Wagner. By the way, I have petitioned to get a vote for the Hall of Fame as a member of the media. I'm not a baseball writer though, so I'm not going to get it. 2 other guys I have on the cusp. Andy Pettitte. Andy Pettitte's not getting in. I still contend if Andy Pettitte had stayed with the Yankees his entire career, Andy Pettitte would be a Hall of Famer. And another guy on my King Felix is another guy I have, but I can't put any of these other guys in. Andrew Jones, one of the, and again, please don't argue with me, JB, about Andrew Jones when Brooks Robinson is in there because of his defensive prowess. Andrew Jones was the best center fielder maybe in the history of baseball. Willie Mays, maybe I can put up there for a 10-year period. And he's a better hitter than somebody like Brooks Robinson. So Andrew Jones belongs in the Hall of Fame. Manny belongs in the Hall of Fame. Omar Vizquel, just can't do it. Bobby Abreu, no. Burley, no. Looking at some guys who got a bunch of years with him. Francisco Rodriguez, no. Chase Utley, really nice player, no. David Wright, no. And the first timers, Felix Hernandez is the only guy I considered. I don't see CC, sorry. And Ichiro, I'm sorry. Good grief. 3 first timers I considered. And I'm going to leave. Again, I'm not one to say, oh, you can't vote for that guy in the first ballot. He's a Hall of Famer. He's a Hall of Famer. One of the most ridiculous things ever is anybody leaving somebody off their ballot because I don't believe in voting for them their first year. Well, you're either a Hall of Famer in year 1 or you're not. Now, maybe people evolve, and I'm also not going to vote for guys just because there's nobody better to vote for on a ballot. I'm going to leave it. I'll send a blank ballot in. This isn't the NFL where we take anywhere between 7 and 10 players. Mets were linked to Tanner Scott, but haven't signed anything. I guess that's maybe what I was hearing, Drew. Thank you for that. Pretty sure that is probably the story that I heard. Brooks and Andrew still hit some. Andrew was a better hitter than Brooks Robinson. Sorry. Brooks had some good years. Not great. Andrew Jones was a great hitter for 10 years of his career to go along with their fielding prowess. Smith and Mazeroski were pretty much all fielding selections. I'll give you now. I'm going to argue a little bit with that. Smith became a more than adequate hitter, no power, the second half of his career, and he stole bases. And I'm okay. I don't have a problem with guys making it on their defensive prowess. Don't get me wrong. If they're that good, Ozzie was, Mazeroski was. Mazeroski also hit one of the biggest home runs in World Series history. That stuff matters, guys. Hall of Fame is for famous moments and people in baseball. Big moments belong in the Hall of Fame as much as big players. The Hall of Fame's for. I mean, it's funny. And Pete Rose is not eligible yet, by the way. You know what's interesting about Pete Rose is with Pete Rose dying, obviously, there's a thought that he will be put or made eligible again. Pete Rose has never been on the ballot. So I'm guessing Pete Rose goes on the ballot the writers would vote on for 10 years or however long it takes if he should get voted in. He's not going straight to the Veterans Committee or whatever the hell we're calling it these days. So anyway, there's my picks. Andrew Jones, Beltran, A-Rod won't get in, but we'll vote for A-Rod. Manny Ramirez, CC Sabathia, Ichiro, and I'm going to waver. I've wavered long enough. And again, this is not really, I'm not being hypocritical about my statement about Bill. If you're a Hall of Famer in year 1, you know, you should be or in year 10, then you should be a Hall of Famer in year 1. This has nothing to do other than me just looking closer at Wagner's. I didn't think he was a Hall of Famer. I did not vote for him for 9 years because, and again, I haven't had a photo talking like I did. I just wasn't convinced. It's got nothing to do with I'm not voting for him because he doesn't deserve to be a first ballot guy. I mean, it's a travesty to me. I mean, congratulations to Mo Rivera. To me, it's a travesty that he's the first unanimous Hall of Famer. How is it Hank Aaron, Willie Mays, Tom Seaver, 100 other guys, probably 50 other guys. It's a travesty that people leave them off the ballot because they don't think people should get in the first time. I think you've seen some of the percentages go up over the years because people don't have that same bias, but obviously somebody still does. Hall of Fame highlights great moments all the time, and I don't feel someone should get in just because they had one. I didn't say just because they had one. It's part of their legacy. Bill Mazeroski is in because of his defensive prowess and the fact that he hit one of the most famous home runs in World Series history. Yes, those moments are in there. Pete Rose is, one of the biggest fallacies is people think the Hall of Fame has nothing to do with, which, by the way, the Hall of Fame and Major League Baseball have nothing to do with one another. And Pete Rose is all over the Hall of Fame. People think you go to Hall of Fame and you're never going to see anything about Pete Rose. That's sad. Pete Rose is all over the place in the Hall of Fame. He just doesn't have a plaque. And people also think Major League Baseball runs the Hall of Fame. They do not. They're two separate organizations. But the Hall of Fame has a rule that no permanently ineligible player will be considered for the Hall of Fame on the Major League Baseball permanently ineligible list. This is why Shoeless Joe Jackson, Pete Rose, and specifically have never been considered for the Hall of Fame. Major League Baseball did not ban them from the Hall of Fame. The Hall of Fame banned them because they're on the permanent ineligible list. They could change that rule tomorrow, and they could consider Pete Rose. But Pete Rose would go to Bud Selig or go to Rob Manfred asking for a reprieve here. He wasn't asking them to let him in the Hall of Fame. They're asking them to be taken off the permanently ineligible list so he could be considered by the Hall of Fame voters. Two different entities. Anyway, there you go. You got my votes. I'm looking at the guys. It's amazing. So players who met first-year eligibility requirements but were not selected by the screening committee. So there's a screening committee. Not everybody hits the ballot, obviously. Let's see. Do they have a chance again? Elected substitute for eliminated. I see. So I don't think these guys ever come up again. I was just looking at the names. I'm trying to see if there's anybody on this list that I could say is better than Brian McCann or Russell Martin or Ben Zobrist. All fine players, never going to make the Hall of Fame. So I was looking at these guys who were eligible but were not selected to be on the ballot. Who's the best player? Melky? David Freese? No. Carlos Gomez? No. No, there's nobody there that. Yeah, I can't. Martin Prado, nice player. Can't make the ballot. Not really. Interesting. By the way, we talked about the Louis Tiant got less than 5 votes. Dave Parker got 14. Dick Allen got 13. The next closest was Tommy John. I love Tommy John. I had Tommy John on the interview show as well a couple of years back. I can't put Tommy John in the Hall of Fame and not put Louis Tiant in. Can I? Jim Bunning pitched no-hitters in both leagues. He only won 220. Did he win any more games than Tiant? I don't think so. That one just popped in my head. Let me just look at Jim Bunning. $224 wins, very close numbers to Tiant, by the way. Very close. Pitched no-hitters in both leagues for the Phillies and for the Tigers. Took him, I'm just using JB's argument here, by the way. Took him 16 years to accumulate 229 wins. What's the difference between Jim Bunning, except for 2 no-hitters, which is something? I mean, no-hitters are a great accomplishment, but they're also, you need a bit of luck to get there as well, and Tiant didn't get those. He was an all-star 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times, where Tiant was 4 times, I believe. Tiant finished higher in the MVP voting a couple of times than Bunning. Bunny was only in the Cy Young top 10 once, where he finished second in 1967. There's a great example. It just popped into my head. Tell me why Louis Tiant belongs in a Hall of Fame and Jim Bunning does. I'm sorry, but vice versa. Why does, and JB might be gone, but I need to know. Why does Louis Tiant not belong in the Hall of Fame, but Jim Bunning does? Same. Completely agree. What about the highlights? Listen, I'm saying, I never said one single highlight should put you in the Hall of Fame. Saying Mazeroski doesn't belong. And he's in because of that home run. I don't think that's the case. Bill Mazeroski was a very good glove man. It took him decades to get in. Phil Rizzuto won MVP. Similar, Bill Mazeroski doesn't have an MVP. Again, it's a very subjective thing, this voting, especially the Veterans Committee. And we have watered down, the criteria to get in the Hall of Fame. I continue to say if Scott Rowland belongs in, Greg Nettles belongs in the Hall of Fame. Sorry. So again, highlights don't necessarily put you in the Hall of Fame. But coming up big in big moments puts you in the Hall of Fame. Kirk Gibson, if he was more of a borderline player, that home run he hit in the World Series would have been something that could have pushed him over the top. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not saying that home run alone should put Kirk Gibson in the Hall of Fame. He's not a Hall of Famer. If he was closer, that might put him over the top. Those highlights matter. Coming up big in big moments matter. Reggie Jackson is in the Hall of Fame for playing big in big moments as much as he is for 560 some home runs. Because when is that? Hitting 500 home runs is no longer going to be an automatic pass to the Hall of Fame. It used to be. I mean, it used to be numbers. And we talk about compilers. There's a gazillion guys in the Hall of Fame who took 20 plus years to compile their numbers. It's okay. I'm not against that. But being at the top of your game for an extended period of time, if you haven't accumulated, 500 home runs and 1,500 RBIs, and like Don Mattingly belongs in the Hall of Fame. If Kirby Puckett's in the Hall of Fame, Don Mattingly belongs in the Hall of Fame. I can make these arguments and comparisons all day long. Some guys have a longer career. Sure, that's great, and it should come into consideration in their circumstance. I don't think a guy who had an 8 or 10 years a dominant stretch, and it isn't as long as somebody else because of injury or whatever else, should be disqualified. If you dominate your sport for an extended period of time, or you're one of the dominant people in your sport, I don't want to have my words taken literally. I think you should be deserved consideration. I mean, did Kirby Puckett have any longer period of time of greatness than Don Mattingly? I'm going to say no. Hey, Chris F. Grave. Corey Julix, who will never be mentioned for the Hall of Fame, by the way, sent down to the minors for the White Sox, still rooting for that guy. Chris finds some great guys. I have no idea who Corey Julix is. Who is he? I always have to look guys up. I like it. Who is he? He can't be any good, by the way, Chris, if the White Sox sent him down. How do I find this guy? If he's not in a baseball reference, then, Julks. Where are you? He's not even in here. How can he not be in the baseball reference? Did you make up a name on me? I must have spelled. Corey with a. Sorry, I misspelled his name, Chris. There he is. He's a left fielder. He's 5'11", 217, born in 1996. He's 28 years old. Did we look at his numbers before? He did get a decent amount of playing time 2 years ago. Hit 6 homers with 33 RBIs and 245. His time's passed. Some guys do mature late. Jerks and Profar, for instance. But I don't know about Corey. Corey Julks. I don't know if you brought him up. You must have brought him up before. I feel like I looked this guy up before. Can only count 4 teams that haven't signed any free agents. But my free agent list includes players with major league experience that sign Well, that's different too. I'm talking about signing guys to major league contracts, I think. And again, the article, I thought I was just reading this article yesterday, but it doesn't mean the article wasn't written a week ago, 2 weeks ago. I don't know. Either way, there's some very inactive teams this winter. Very inactive teams. I mean, to the point I'm wondering whether they're trying to get better or not. Mario Diaz, 9-year career before he headed off to Mexico. Happy birthday. 63 years old, Mario Diaz. I remember Mario Diaz. I'm getting old because that guy's almost as old as me. When you research. Chris does, I have given Chris very specific instructions to find little irreverent, Chris, not that other word I did accidentally use one day. Irreverent facts and people. Irreverent is not, again, there are names. We looked at the names of the people that passed away, and I found it very interesting. Some of the names that we weren't all that familiar with, but I remember growing up, right? And some people will remember some of these names the same way I remember those. They weren't great players, right? But they had their time in Major League Baseball. And you can put those guys down all you want, but it's still a pretty select group of people that have had a chance to play Major League Baseball over 150 years. Nobody wanted Julks on waivers, so he was sent down. Again, he spent 2 more years in the majors than I did, so I'm not going to really knock him too much. I'd like to be in a position where the White Sox or anybody didn't want me anymore and released me or sent me down. Sorry. Oh, my God. Is that something there? There we go. What else? What else did I miss today? We got about 8 minutes or so left. This is about when Scott Cote usually pops in. Hope Scott's doing well. Danny, what's your situation in LA, by the way? I hope you're still holding up. I hope people you know are okay. I'm sure this thing has affected people you know, and our hearts and our thoughts and prayers are with all of them. It's just a devastating, awful situation out there, and I hope you and yours are holding up okay. I'm just going to look at another piece of news here and see if anything can come up. What's Drew got here? Other birthdays. Jim O'Toole, Willie McCovey. Chuck Dobson. Chuck Dobson was a good pitcher for the A's just before they hit their peak in the late 60s, early 70s. And then he got some arm troubles. Rich Dotson was a pretty good pitcher with the White Sox for a while. Adam Kennedy, decent infielder. Nick Sadlin, I don't remember. He was just traded in the Jays in the Horowitz trade with Cleveland. You can read my rants posted about Mets Alonso, and there you go. I don't know what that means, Carlos. I'm not going to read anything. Pete Alonso is Dave Kingman reincarnated. I don't think Dave Kingman's dead, is he? He's the modern day Dave Kingman. I'm never going to move off that stance. So I don't want him in Yankee uniform, and he's not going to be now. I had this argument with somebody, and if we're on the same side here, Carlos, it'll be the first time in a while. By the way, that's drying up pretty quickly. Pete Alonso might be signing a 1-year make good contract or a 2-year, 3-year with, well, as you said, he'll opt out after a year. He'll sign the same contract that Carlos Correa signed with the Twins 3 years ago or whatever it was. I'm sorry. Pete Alonso's a one-trick pony. That's it. Pete Alonso disappears for weeks at a time. Not a good fit for a team that wants to win pennants and a World Series championships. Just not. Not a good fielder. I'll take Gold. I said all along, I'd take Goldschmidt and at 1 year for $14 million over Alonso for any amount of money. Even 1 year, $14 million. I'd still take Goldschmidt. Dave Tim, thank you. He is still alive. He could be Alonso's godfather. I thought Kingman was alive. You know, I sent him. I've tried to get Dave Kingman to come on the one-on-one show just because I want to see if he'd be as ornery as he was reputed to be. And by all accounts, that reputation is earned and deserved. Who's that looking for me at work? But I don't think that'll ever happen. We had a great interview this morning with Tony Collins, by the way. Please check it out if you haven't. Very interesting, great guy. He's got some serious issues, post career issues from playing football for nearly a decade. CTE and some other issues that are making his life difficult. He's gone through hell and back with drug abuse and issues during his playing career and shortly thereafter, but he was saved and pulled from that madness through the love of a good woman, as he talked about on our show, and faith, his own faith. And he's giving back. He created, as so many of the guys that I've talked to have, he's giving back. He wrote a great book called Broken Road, How My Mess turned into a message. Very inspirational story. If you get a chance, take a look at it. So how is it? Carlos, you got to understand the landscape. You can't just look 1 year, $14 million. How is that a risk? You've got to have a first baseman. $14 million for the Yankees is not $14 million for the Royals. 1 year. And by the way, if we're looking at potential bounce back candidates, in my mind, Paul Goldschmidt in a new league with pitchers that don't know him as much. Yes, I know we play interleague, big freaking deal. A hitter friendly ballpark. He is a candidate to bounce back this year. You were doing so good. We're 25 miles from the big four fires, or the four big fires. The winds, that's not a lot today, right? The winds have calmed down some. That's good. We continue to get ashes and running for water every 4.4. I'm having trouble following that. And running for water, I guess, every 4 hours. It's a war zone. It is sad. I saw some drone footage last night. Guys, this isn't just, and again, I saw some horrific posts from people saying, "Oh, all these millionaire actors and they can afford it." Nobody should lose a lifetime of memories, and it isn't just people with a gazillion dollars out there being affected. There are people just like you and I, and so are actors like you and I. By the way, I mean, can they more easily replace what they lost financially? Monetarily, yes, but memories. Billy Crystal and his wife in the same home for like 50 years where they raised their family. I mean, I don't feel any more sorry for them or less sorry for them than I do, the people with less means. And I know insurance in these high-risk places is hard to get, just like hurricane insurance. But it looks like a freaking war zone over there. Some of the footage it looked like a nuclear bomb had been dropped. That's what it looked like. My blocks and blocks and blocks and blocks of just destroyed homes. And it's sad. And there'll be some repercussions. It's interesting that the Hollywood people have a different view of some of the people in charge out there than they might have had a week or two ago. Why wouldn't I be okay with $14 million a year? I've risked nothing except $14 million. I'm the Yankees. So my other option is DJ playing first base. Of course, I'm okay with that. If they sign him to a 3 or 4 or 5 year contract, well, then I'd have a problem. Contracts and opt-out clauses are not really much of a contract. I agree. If you're giving a team the opt-out too, Glaber leaving the Yankees helps, but it helps a lot. Yeah, you and your younger players, you know, who's going to step up? Who's ready to step up? Peraza gotten hurt every year. There's not a guy, well, except maybe Dominguez, who's ready to step in and play now. That's it. You want to just throw young guys into teams that are going to contend for a World Series, like there's nothing to it. I'll take a veteran who's been through the wars like Paul Goldschmidt, and they don't have a first baseman ready to step in. Second base, maybe they could put Peraza there. And don't tell me about Spencer Jones. He's not ready. He's closer to 40 than 25. So am I. What do I care if he goes out and hits? Whatever he does will be an improvement on Anthony Rizzo last year. And again, I'm not sure what we're talking about, but if we're talking about my comments about LA, it's, you know, a sad situation, man. I don't want to belabor the fact. But anyway, thanks for tuning in. Carlos, I know we don't get along with or agree on a lot of things, but that's why we have this show. I haven't forgotten about Lahaina in Hawaii. I visited there this past February, and it looks just as it does now in Malibu and LA, apocalyptic and devastating for sure. I don't know that certainly people there at Lahaina have not forgotten about it for sure. But again, this is maybe I have forgotten, in fairness, Drew, that because I don't remember it covering. I don't know the numbers, but I know that nearly 10,000 homes are gone now in LA. Again, it's what's happening now. I don't think focusing on what's happening at the moment in LA is in any way forgetting or not honoring the memory of the people in Lahaina, because these things have happened elsewhere. This is one of the most devastating things I can remember ever seeing, Lahaina included. But again, anytime these things happen, it's sad. It's very sad to watch. And again, good people lose everything, and they lose their memories of a lifetime, and it's sad. Whether it's in Lahaina, whether it's in LA, whether it's in Canada last year, down south here in New York this past fall. It's that situation. Chris. Well, we're a few minutes over. Chris, when Vlad taps his Gold Glove band every time he makes a basic play, should other players tap theirs when he boots a ball? Does Vlad have a Gold Glove? I guarantee you Vlad's Gold Glove is based off of his bat, which happens, by the way. Derek Jeter, who I love, won a lot of Gold Gloves he likely didn't deserve. He got them because of his bat and his reputation. I mean, he wasn't a horrible shortstop, don't get me wrong, but his range, especially the second half of his career, was not anything to get excited about. I mean, quite frankly, when A-Rod came here, there was talk about moving Jeter to center field. Expect similar results. I expect similar results in that area, maybe worse. It's not going to be worse. It's $14 million, number one. Get the number right. $14 million. And it's not your money. Well, it is, I guess, because you complained about the ticket prices, rightfully so. And you're a Met fan. You got to worry about your own first base problems. Who's going to play first base for your team? Right? I don't want Alonso. It's funny. I had an argument with Paul Paul Spada. I don't know if you're still here or not, Paul. We had an argument here, or disagreement, not an argument, a few weeks ago about, he said the Yankees should have won Alonso. And I said, no. Why don't the... And I said the Red Sox should take him, and he didn't want him. So thanks again for this. I hope to see you. I hope I see you too. I'm glad. My favorite show. I love Sunday mornings, by the way. Love them. And I hope to see you too, Chris. Hope to see more of you, and I hope things are going well. 14 million. It's 3 million, man. To you, that's a lot of money. To the Yankees, it's not. I mean, 14 million falls off the truck. Did you see what some of these arbitration numbers are? Carlos, I would really like to sign off. I really would. But then Carlos is back. Pushing buttons. Where'd those arbitration numbers go? Let me just tell you what some of these guys got in arbitration. Where are those guys, Drew, that I found? I'm okay with that. Josh Naylor hit 243 with 31 homers last year. He got, what did he get? 10 million. Randy Arozarena, 11.3 with 219 and 20 homers and 60 RBIs. Goldschmidt have a better year than that? Andrew Vaughn, 246, 19 homers and 70 RBIs. Only 5 million. So we're going the other way. The numbers are outrageous no matter what. It's freaking monopoly money. Again, Goldschmidt is worth the gamble. We can disagree. Chris is right. Hard to believe, but Vlad, yeah. I know, right? A lot of guys, Drew, and you know this, I think, as well as I do, that a lot of Gold Gloves over the years have gone to guys that really earned it off of reputation or their offensive prowess, which could have nothing to do with it, right? And Derek Jeter, again, is a perfect example. 3 million, a drop in the bucket for the Yankees and the Dodgers, by the way. And F. Alonso, great move by the Yanks. Great, thank you, Danny. Look at Danny agreeing with me. All the money is ridiculous now. In the past, you'd never see starters making more than position players, especially now while pitching. Well, that is 100%. Again, we pay these guys the most money. Well, the really good position players still make more than the pitchers, right? But we pay them the most amount of money to pitch the least important part of the game. Don't get me going on that topic. We're already over. All right, guys. Good enough. Guys, we had a good time. Danny, Chris, Paul, Carlos, thank you for chiming in. JB, we'll continue to debate this Luis Tiant thing again at a later date. I think Drew and I have already had that discussion. We'll see you guys later. I'll be back Sunday with the Stream of Consciousness. We'll be back on Wednesday night with the College Football Huddle. Put that down a little bit. College Football Huddle, where we'll be looking at recapping these semifinals. Great game by great win by Notre Dame last night. We'll see whether Ohio State can get by Texas tonight. And what'll be next Friday's one-on-one. We don't have a guest yet, still working on it. If not, it's going to be your show. And in any event, we'll have fun. Sunday with a Stream of Consciousness. We'll see you Sunday. Guys, have a great Friday night. Enjoy the second semifinal game. Out. You guys have a great weekend. That's nowadays. Yeah. Guys, we'll see you Sunday. Have a great one. Bye-bye.
Football season is here, and SeatGeek is my go-to for buying tickets. Now, with SeatGeek, every single ticket is backed with their buyer guarantee. We've all had plans change, and when you can't make it to the big game, SeatGeek has you covered. They're the only ticketer that allows you to return your tickets ahead of the event for credit with SeatGeek swaps. So when things come up, I know that my tickets won't go to waste. So what are you waiting for? Download the SeatGeek app to maximize your possibilities and shop live events with confidence.
You're listening to Keith Engle, the host of TGI Sports Talk on the National Streaming Sports Roku channel.